investing in some cameras.
You did.
I mean, we started.
And I tell you what, they're easy to carry, and they're all 4K.
Exactly.
Ready when you are.
Let me see. What time is it, Jason?
Oh, you know what time it is.
What time is it?
It's time to ball, y'all.
Hey.
Come on.
I
I love it.
All right. We are good to go when you are. We just literally, I don't have a script or anything.
Okay.
I know the questions that I want to ask.
Yeah.
Natural flowing conversation.
That's great.
I think 30 minutes will be good.
Perfect.
Maybe 45 because I don't
Yeah.
want to keep you too long. So let's do it. We got Jason Jackson in the house today, a Miami Heat legend, a Miami legend actually. I've been watching him my whole life, and I'm sure most of you guys have as well. He is the face of the Miami Heat when it comes to being an announcer. He does all of the Inside the Heats. So I would love to just say that with all the Inside the Heats that you've done in the organization of the Miami Heat, today we're going to do an Inside the Hustle with Jason Jackson.
I love it, man. I hope you all stole all the graphics and the music and you just wipe it all in. Let me make one correction. First of all, there are a lot of Miami Heat broadcasters. Top of the list, of course, Eric Reed, who's called games for the entirety of the existence of the Miami Heat, which is challenging for anyone to, first of all, accomplish, let alone admit, because it's not everybody that gets a chance to do that. Jose Pineda, who is the Spanish voice of the Miami Heat, on the radio side, he is in his 35th year broadcasting, and 36th year in the organization. So he's been around the whole time, but the first year Jose was hustling. He was selling tickets and then was able to convert into the voice. This will be my 20th season, man, and so I'm, as it pertains to seniority, I've now moved to third on the list, which is pretty entertaining.
That's amazing.
When I think about coming here in 2004, when the team traded for Shaquille, I had no idea how long I would be here. And here it is 20 years later, both my sons, the majority of their childhood here. And I think next year marks the day, somewhere, I think, let's call it sometime in October next year, I will have lived in Miami longer than I've lived anywhere.
Hey, shout out to Miami.
The first 21 years of my life in Ohio. So it is.
Wow, Ohio.
Yeah,
That's
exactly. Where I was born and raised. Yeah.
Big change.
I didn't quite get to do my 22nd birthday before I came down here out of Bowling Green State University to work at Channel 7. My first job on air out of college.
Nice.
Was right here at WSVN. And then 7 years, after 18 months here, 7 years at ESPN, and now 20 years here.
That's amazing. So how did you go from being born and raised in Ohio to getting that job in Channel 7 here in Miami? How was that move for you?
Yeah. First of all, I was spectacular, Chris. That's why.
Of course.
I was outstanding. I was young and I was fortunate. I had a skill set. It wasn't that I had any experience on air outside of me building, my resume reels. I could edit. And because I could edit, I think the news director at the time was like, oh, wait, so he's going to do primarily feature stories, and he can edit himself. That frees up a camera operator. That frees up an editor who otherwise would have to be pulled from news to cut my stuff. So I think just by having that skill, and I still tell young broadcasters now, come out of school editing. Like, it doesn't matter if it's audio or video. It's better when it's video because you can always go back to audio. But if you have that acumen to just be creative, to be concise, to summarize, you're going to work. Nice. It may not be on air initially. I was very fortunate I was able to put those two skills together. Yeah. Now, I couldn't edit anything now. All of it's, point and click and, shortcuts and command this and
that. Now we got AI.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I can just call somebody.
Yeah.
But it's, I'm so glad that I was serious about my internship years and didn't wallflower it and really got involved and understood that if I had something to present, I didn't know what it was going to be. Writing? Was it going to be performing? Was it going to be shooting? Was it, editing? It was a little bit of all of it.
Yeah, you were young and ready for anything.
Yeah.
I mean, 22 years old. Did you move down here by yourself?
No, my now wife was my fiance at the time. And we moved down here, just the two of us.
Nice.
Everybody in Ohio, when we were here, everybody came down during the winter. You become America's host when you're not from here. But we came down
That's a beautiful story.
And it
You
was
had a
awesome.
fiance at 22 and you guys moved down here together.
Yeah, and we're still together.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Shout out to you guys. Shout
Yeah,
out to
oh, listen,
love.
shout out to her. I mess it up all the time. So I appreciate the fact.
Yeah, I mean,
that
it's
I'm
not
still in
it's
the
not
mix.
easy to stay in a relationship when you move down here at 22 in Miami.
You ain't saying nothing.
How was
It
how
ain't
was-
easy at 51. What are you talking about?
How was that adjustment for you?
This
Staying
place was so,
focused,
man, it was
but-
like we were living in another planet. This place moves so fast. And you're too young for this, but talk to somebody who was like in their 30s or 40s in the, at the time. So now they'd be in their 60s or 70s. But everything was popping for Miami. So for a long time, Miami was either a getaway because you needed to get away from some people up north, or you were immigrating. You know, obviously, folks getting away from horrible political regimes in their native countries, in the Caribbean and also Central and South America. There were very few people that were born and raised in Miami at that time, and it was seen as slow and retiree. Like,
Right.
man, but it was just starting to pop. People started traveling here from Europe for a vacation. People were like, you know what, it isn't that slow. My parents, actually in 1970, their honeymoon was here in Miami. So there was
Beautiful.
this full circle thing that existed in my life. But I mean, all the clubs were starting to build up. People were, Coconut Grove was the spot. And it was starting to turn to Miami Beach. And you could tell because sports teams were starting to stay, you know, on the beach or in what would become Brickell. But right when I got here is when everything was starting to pop off. And it wasn't always safe, right? There was
course.
stuff was nuts. You know, you kind of encroach upon people's space, and more affluent things are happening that can create frustration. Frustration oftentimes can create bad decision making. But everything got a hold, and it became the world's playground, like that.
It's a great way to put it.
Yeah, and so by the time I came back in 2004, it was a whole nother place. I'd been gone for 10 years.
Oh, so
And
it
so
had
when I
already
came back, I
developed.
mean, the buildings had popped up. South Beach was already, you know, I knew about it not being here. You know, that it had its own mystique. You know, and you're like, man, it's only 10 blocks. Why are people tripping? But, you know, it's a fun 10 blocks.
Yeah.
You know? So.
It's wild. It's
What a
wild
what a
out here.
wonderful return it was.
Yeah.
After 10 winters to come back to.
I've never
paradise.
even seen snow. I was born
Keep it
and
that
raised
way,
here,
brother.
so-
You ain't missing nothing.
Yeah, I agree.
Man, you better keep that on the film.
Even
Just
when-
watch that in movies because it is cool when it's coming down on a beautiful night. You got a nice little honey crackling fire.
Looks cool. I don't
Singing,
think it
baby,
feels
it's cold
cool.
outside, whatever. But then you have to shovel it, and then you got to scrape it, and then you got to maneuver through black ice. Yeah, it's not. As,
I love Miami.
Stay with it.
I'm not leaving.
Stay with it. I love it.
Yeah, man. So that's amazing. You get into media, and now take me through joining the Miami Heat. Let's
Yeah.
fast forward there, because one thing I will say about the Miami Heat and what I love about our city and our team is the culture that we bring.
Yeah.
Like you said, Eric Reed and all of them over there are hustlers, including yourself, and then even Eric Spoelstra. That
Yeah.
was what was he? A
Video coordinator.
Video coordinator. Now one of the
Before
best
that
head
was even a
coaches.
job.
Yeah. So
That was,
one thing I love
he was
about
the
Miami
first
is that
crew.
it believes in its staff and
Yeah.
it develops them.
It's the best.
So how was it with you being there as a new person and then developing yourself to where you are now with the Heat?
I was an outsider, which takes a little while to get everybody comfortable with you and do you understand how we operate and all of that. And it was a change. I mean, I was coming in from my time at ESPN, and obviously that's a lot of digging, a lot of reporting, a lot of insider information, and that's not the job. It isn't for most team broadcasters. What really is cool about our job is, man, give me a press release, I'll be at the press conference, and I'm calling the game, right? I don't have to dig and TMZ Sports this and beat reporter that. No, those are all different jobs. So you spend your time learning the mechanism, learning what we turned into the term culture, and everything changed for the team in 1995 when Pat Riley, our president at the time, president and head coach, showed up from New York, and it just everything changed. There was hope, results, and then that just became a cycle. We're going to be. This is all Heat culture is. deciding who you are and never wavering from it. Doesn't mean it's for everybody. Doesn't make you a bad person because you don't want to sacrifice minutes or marquee or money. Like, there's other places to do that. But to come here, there's a certain type of player, and there's no way to articulate it. You just see it.
Right.
And you know.
Mm-hmm.
And now there's a long line of unbelievable superstar players. All their names are in the rafters. Every single one. LeBron hasn't retired yet. That's the only one that's not up there. And then there are the individuals who have been in service to themselves, right, to come and give themselves a chance to get into this league, but not through the draft, maybe through the G League, or maybe through working in on an Exhibit 10 contract through training camp before the G League existed. But that long line, man, Anthony
People
Mason,
that never gave
Ike
up.
Austin. Like, we go way back, with, like, putting life back into Dan Marley's career. And then it just on and on and on. And now we're looking at what will Drew Smith, Cole Swider, Jamal Cain, all these new guys, now that Max Strus and Gabe Vincent, and they're gone, but you still have Caleb Martin.
Right.
That's right there representing the 20 years of Udonis Haslem. Let us not forget, undrafted, overseas, come back after you change your whole body and become eventually the starting power forward on an NBA championship team in 06, and a key component in 12 and 13 to those championship runs as well. And then become, the godfather of the culture, in the sense of, I'm going to take less money, a lesser playing role than probably if he went somewhere else after the Big Three broke up. And he decided to stay here and make sure that he built the next generation of culture carriers. We are forever in debt to number 40 for that.
Yes, shout out to Udonis Haslem,
Yeah.
a real Miami hustler. And I think that his career lasted so long with the Heat because he's truly a hustler. I feel like I haven't seen him in practice, but from the stories that I hear, he's the one that keeps the team on their toes.
Man, let me stop you. He was in practice today.
Really?
He is
He's still on the
retired.
court.
He ain't playing. He was in a tank top and shorts today.
That's what
And
I'm
as
saying.
he figures out, and I think Spo said this best, he's going to be the most unique of the retired players, and it makes sense because he's one of the most unique player in Heat history and the way that he went about it. He's going to have stuff that's still in the locker room. He's going to be stuff that's just in the coach's room. He'll have responsibilities in the front office. There's time to figure it out.
Yes.
There's no rush.
Yeah, I agree.
It's
He's a
gonna be
warrior. He's a warrior. And
No
I'm
doubt.
so glad that he nailed that shot when it was Dwyane Wade's last game to give him that triple-double. When he got that shot and he let it go, I was like, I had no doubt. I was like,
that little flicker.
Of course, UD is
Absolutely.
the one that hits that mid-range.
Beautiful.
It was beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So, again, shout out to everything that's going on in the Heat. And what do you think is going to be next with this season because of the whole Damian Lillard situation? I know a lot of Heat fans thought we were going to get a star like Damian Lillard, but we ended up letting go of Strus and other players. So,
as we tape this, we're 2 days away from the beginning of the season on Wednesday, the 25th of October, I'm sorry. And the first weekend, we go to Boston. They're going to be upset. It's okay. Then on Saturday, we play in Minneapolis. And then the following Monday, we play at Milwaukee.
let's go.
So I just encourage you. I'm not giving you a prediction. I'm not giving you a vibe. Whatever happens in those games happen. But there will be a feeling going into all of those games because of that situation. It's different things happen for different reasons, and the summer was clogged up by that story, particularly for the Heat and where they were going to go. Appropriately so. Damian Lillard deserves that type of desire.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Respect. Yeah. But you don't control every deal. And that doesn't make it good or bad. That's what it is.
Right.
And now you get to go compete. And different people are going to feel differently about all of it. Remember, Milwaukee's hot. They're upset because they got sent home early. They were the number 1 seed, but the Heat came in and beat them in 5. Right? And I believe that 5th game was in their place. And they've been talking about it all summer, right? Of being shocked that it went down. So they have that. And I think that Tyler Herro, who broke his hand in that series in game 1, he's from Milwaukee. That happened in Milwaukee. His name was all over the discussion, and he's gonna.
I'm sure he was itching.
He might be hyped.
I'm sure he was itching to play in those playoffs.
I recently talked to him, and he's not going to be hyped simply, playing Portland or playing Milwaukee. He wants to take that next level step to be hyped every night. That it's not, and by the way, 20 points per game as the sixth man of the year a couple years ago. Maintained that same production last year. Probably forget a little bit about it because he wasn't around during the playoffs because of injury. But I would not be surprised if he takes that next step that forces everybody to look at him as an all-star.
I agree, especially with the team we have this year.
Yeah.
And how do you think Jimmy Butler is preparing himself? I know he was a little emotional in media day, so what do you think about that look? Are you a fan?
I love it. That's a great way to put that. I'm not steeped in goth knowledge, but I know that Jimmy likes to be Jimmy,
right.
Which is oftentimes unpredictable. But the thing I love about him is that he is unmoved by just the glamour of it, right? He doesn't even necessarily want to talk to us, and we're team broadcasters, let alone my colleagues in the day in, day out, beat reporting media for the team. He just wants to ball. Or as he likes to say, I just want to hoop. Mm-hmm. I'm a hooper. A hooper's hoop. He makes it real simple, but he is a savant mind in basketball. He's figured out how to take his game to another level every time it's needed. You think back to that effort in Orlando during COVID. One of the most heroic efforts you've seen. There were no Bam, no Goran at the time, Goran Dragic, both injured. And he put everything on his back. Mm-hmm. Came up short against the Lakers, but man, did he put on a show.
He earned respect, though.
Come on, man. Triple-double in the finals.
Yeah.
When you're not, he's 6'9".
He leads by example.
7 feet, yeah.
He's a true leader by example, and that's why you have teammates that follow him and want to be
absolutely
guided in his footsteps.
Yeah, and so I expect more of the same. I know he's getting older. For most people, that's tread. He didn't play a lot his first couple of years, so I don't look at years ever. Mm-hmm. I look at games played.
Right.
And somewhere between 800 and 1,000, you start finding, there it comes. Even for the great ones, Kobe and LeBron, they're off the charts. Like that's, you start seeing it in that window. And so Jimmy's still approaching that. And so I feel like I wouldn't be surprised if we see more of his best basketball. But you sure enough going to see 25 points, 5 to 7 rebounds, 3 to 5 assists, 2 steals, some of the best on-ball defense.
That's what he does
every single night.
He's a great player to have on the Heat because it's the way that he plays and the culture that we have. I feel like it goes hand in hand. And
Agreed.
Speaking of culture, because you mentioned Pat Riley when he joined the Miami Heat, do you think Pat Riley is the reason that the Miami Heat have the culture that they do?
He established it, and then everybody just enriches it. That's the best. To come in with a way, to come in with an idea, to accomplish it in 6, what was it? It was 11 years it took. It was rough, those battles against the Knicks in the late 90s into the 2000s. Making the decision, I said, I need to go get the baddest man on the planet, while having just drafted Dwyane Wade. Not fully knowing. You knew he was special, but not knowing he was going to be an all-timer, right? Mm-hmm. And so making that deal had to be tough because that team in Dwyane's rookie year fought back in the second half of that year after having a terrible start and ended up making the playoffs, beat New Orleans in the first round, battled Indiana to
that was a tough team.
To Game 6. And that's when I wasn't living here. I was in Ohio transitioning from Connecticut. And the first thing I remember, first memory I have of Dwyane Wade in the pros, because I followed that run to the Final Four against Kentucky the year before, but when he went chest to chest on Jermaine O'Neal, they didn't win that series, but it was like, ooh, who is that? So when I got the phone call, it's a funny story. I got the phone call about the team. Something was happening. They hadn't announced the trade yet, but they had decided we're going to have a bigger platform for our shows. The television show is not just going to, the game isn't just coming on at 7:30. We want a pregame, we want a full-blown halftime, and a full-blown postgame show. Let's go get a host and a reporter. and that was going to be one person doing both those jobs. One of my old producers from Channel 7 was now working at the Heat in broadcasting at the time, gave me a call, and I remember going, "Oh, Ed Philomia is his name," and I said, "Ed, no, I'm cool, man. I'm waiting for another national gig, blah blah blah." Like, man, 2 days later, that big semi pulled up in front of the then American Airlines Arena, and Shaq.
I was there.
Oh,
I was.
Weren't you a kid? You were there?
Yeah, I was a kid.
On those steps,
With,
man. I hope
Super
you have
Soakers.
stills and some video from your phone or something that you get to roll in.
Yeah.
It was something else, man. I picked the phone right back up. It was like, "Hey, okay, where do I send all my stuff?" I'm kidding. My bad. So I almost blew that.
So that moment, the Shaq moment, was what it made you really want to come
that
down
press
here.
conference changed everything. Yeah.
Shout out to Shaq.
Come on, that diesel truck on the steps.
He's larger than life.
Looked like a
when
parade.
When he came in that truck, it was just everyone was in awe when he walked out of there. And then of course he's a fun guy. He comes out with Super Soakers and starts wetting
Less than
everybody.
2 years
in the
later,
crowd.
he was using the same Super Soaker in the championship parade.
He said it. He said that he was going to give us a championship.
And it happened.
Yep.
By the way, that parade in 06, that was the hottest day. It was 99 degrees, 99% humidity. People were, you saw it, downtown was off the charts. And Shaquille was saving lives with a Super Soaker. He was just hitting people. People were like taking it right in the gullet. I'm like, okay, you don't know where that water's been. But they didn't care. That's how hot they were. And Shaq is just crushing people with a Super Soaker.
Yeah, man.
All the while creating some comfort for this awesome, awesome day. It just was hot as hell.
Yeah, and shout out to Pat Riley again to capitalize on getting Shaq here because that was a game changer. And
Absolutely.
ever since then, we've just been winning championships. He pulled the move with LeBron and Chris Bosh. That was a whole nother power move in its own. And now here we are. We just made it to the finals. We have Jimmy Butler. Like, we're always in good hands with Pat Riley.
It's a wonderful bit to have secure leadership.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of teams, their exposed line, they get sick at sea. When the water gets rough, everybody overboard, right? Let's fire the coach. Let's fire the general manager. Let's get a brand new president of basketball operations. And a lot of the teams that do that, nothing in the trophy case.
Mm-hmm.
You have to go through trials and tribulations. You have to set who you are and see it through. Players come and players go, and that's not being unkind. That's just how the business works. But if you set a philosophy, stick to it, and then impress that upon your opponents more than they can impress themselves upon you, you will win more often than not. You may not have the most talented team, but if you have a tough team, a well-conditioned team, a team that will get on the hardwood, that will do anything to get the rock, right? That's in the gym right now, middle of the night, 2 nights before opening night, getting shots up. If that's who you are, and then you can instill that through every iteration of your team because you keep a standard core, that's Miami Heat.
Yeah, I love what you said about you can't just replace people when things go wrong. You need to go through it together because that's where you get better. That's where you learn. And that's kind of what Tyler Herro is going through as well. I feel like this season he's really going to shine, like you said, because he went through so much last season with his injury and then having to sit on the bench watching the Milwaukee Bucks against the Heat was probably...
He was rolling. People don't remember that first half. I think he had 12 before he got hurt. That might have been the first quarter.
He's electrifying.
He was ready to show out on that stage more than any. And unfortunately, he broke his hand.
Mm-hmm.
It's nobody's fault. Wasn't anything dirty. He was diving on the floor. Now, he might not dive on the floor like he used to. Other cats might have to do that.
Yeah.
But I don't know how you take that out of somebody. I don't know how you take that dog that we talk about all the time about whatever it takes to win. I will do whatever it takes to win. And that mentality has to be something that is ingrained in you. There's no way to change that. But he has to be careful. He has to be mindful. We're better when he's there. And so now it's just, here's a beautiful thing for Tyler. Whatever his desires are, whatever's motivating him right now, his teammates are good with it. So if he's got to have the ball in his hands most of the time, if he's going to take the most shots, there is nobody, not Kyle, not Jimmy, not Bam, no one is begrudging him that because the team is better when he has more opportunities. It's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, it is. The first 3 games are going to be like playoff games, I feel like.
Oh, listen. So yeah, we're gonna watch. It's gonna be intense.
And tell me about how it's like to do the play-by-play. Is that something that you get better at as you go? Like, tell me about the first couple play-by-play games.
Yeah, for me, it wasn't a skill set that I had
It looks very challenging. That's why I asked.
It's
you got to be like on point.
And radio even more so. When Mike Inglis, who had done that job for 25 years, decided to retire, it was a little abrupt. He did it late in the off season, and so fortunately for me, they didn't have time to do like a national search for somebody who had been doing it. And I was already speculating. I was like, oh, maybe we'll just do a simulcast. The television broadcast will be on the radio for a while till they figure it out. Man, 12 hours later, I got the phone call. Is this something I would want to do? And I said, now listen, I don't have to come off TV all the way, do I?
Yeah.
Come on, baby.
We need you on TV.
Hey, the old line is you got a face for radio.
Yeah.
Come on now, let's be careful. We got some smooth edges.
You got
still.
the voice, but you got the face too.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. It is, it's a gift. First of all, I was 49. I've been in this business for a while, moving toward 20 years in the organization, 30 years covering the league, over 30 years in broadcasting. It's rare that you get something new to do. And so I ran right at it with no real experience or skill set, but I know what I wanted it to sound like. I've been listening to play-by-play at that point cognitively for 40 years. So it wasn't like I was just walking into it with no knowledge. It was, how do I plan this? How do I spread this out? How do I make it work first of all, I don't want it to sound like anything else. I want it to be different. I want it to be entertaining. I want it to have like a Q Morning Zoo feel. I want you to hear different voices and have fun and inject music. And listen, the play-by-play of what's happening on the floor is still the main thing, but we just have a little more to the platter when you show up. And so I think we've been able to grow just on the very challenging thing, Chris, is floor geography. Helping you when you can't see, know where the ball is and the type of shot it is. And I think I'm going to continue to get better at that for the next 10 years. I don't think that's something that you ever truly master, because you're always changing what you want to say. Because I'm like, can someone really understand mid-right post? That it's between the free throw line, between the right block on the right side of the paint, outside of the paint.
You got to be a player.
I've got to be able, but I've got to get you there, though. So every now and then, when I get a chance, I'm going to say, for those that aren't familiar with the mid-post, it's above the block, below the free throw line, outside the paint. Like when I have a second. So we still do a little teaching. And here's the thing. Game is fast as hell.
Yeah.
That I did not anticipate. And my friends who call games on television are cheating because they have moving pictures to help. So you can be quiet.
Okay.
And people can see it. I can never be quiet. And I have to be super accurate, and I've got to be up to the pace of the game. And the pace can change all the time. But what a cool thing to have on my plate to continue to grow in. And I hope that, I'm better this year than I was last year. And last year was better than the first year. I think I was trying to be an FM DJ at the first little bit, trying to be cool, like a little R&B. And we'll be back on the Miami Heat's audio experience. But now, I let big moments be big, man. I don't care if it's game 1 or game 81. I'm going to give you a full blast.
Yeah, you're fun to listen to.
Full blast, man.
Everyone loves you. Everyone loves your voice. You're a good time. I love that you post the.
I think I get on somebody's nerves. I don't know if everybody loves me, but
I don't know.
I'll take the preponderance.
Yeah. I haven't heard anyone saying that you get on their nerves, but I like when you post the little videos of you with the reactions.
The GoPro joints.
I love that. Yeah, because it reminds me of when Joe Rogan is like doing the UFC and something crazy happens. That's how you are. You bring that energy. You sometimes get up off the chair man,
sometimes I walk that road, man, over there like a Pentecostal preacher. I wanted to show people what they couldn't see again, and also promote the nights where we're the only local thing happening because television's blacked out because it's on national television. And now it's turned into something that there's like an appetite for. And so I don't know how to feed that appetite much more than we do. But those behind the scenes joints, I think everybody digs those.
I love it.
Regardless of what you're watching. If you're watching a documentary on whales and at the end of it they show you some cool stuff, you'd love that. But just being able to look behind the curtain and get a feel for how nuts I go from night to night, I'm hopeful it's enjoyable. I try not to be like a Game 7 Gary. Like, I don't want to be like every moment is the most important thing. Man, if something cool happens and it's Game 17, why wouldn't I be excited?
Of course.
You know, I get paid to be in the building for free.
Yeah, people are listening.
I'm fired up.
People are listening and watching the game to get excited.
Yeah, man.
So that's awesome. And then what I love about you is that you're a true hustler. You don't back down from any challenge.
No,
if someone gives you the call and says, let's do it, you're doing it.
Yeah,
so
man.
how was it like to also add another thing to your plate and do the Inside the Heats? Because in my opinion, I've always loved Inside the Heats. I've always been an athlete growing up. So just watching them and watching what other athletes that are in the big stage and have got into the professional league that you want to get to, getting to know who they are as a person, I feel like it's also why we do the Miami Hustle, because everyone is hustling, doing their own passion, and they're posting what they love to do, but rarely are they letting us know who they really are and what they've gone through to get to where they're at and where they want to get to. And I feel like that's what Inside the Heat is.
It's definitely a look behind, on and off the court, the work, right? It could be the extension of what someone is doing beyond basketball. It could be the philanthropic vibe of their life and how they're helping others. We try to let the games tell the game story, and then we tell the people story.
I love that.
After that. And it's been really one of the joys of my career to be able to host that show with Eric Reed each year. He does about a half dozen, I do the other half. And the show's going to change a little bit as you watch it coming up. It's going to be a little more point of view, probably a little BTS behind the scenes as well. But for the first 19 years of that show, really some of my favorite Heat moments, spending time in guys' homes, learning about their families, learning about their passions away from basketball, are the lasting memories of my time. So I'm glad that you dig it.
I love it.
It's long form, and your generation has not shown us a great love for long form items. So the fact that you don't mind sitting down for 20, 25 minutes and learning about someone, even if it's their 5th edition, like you get with Dwyane and Udonis over the years, that there's still this beautiful connection that you can have with your players as you learn more about their passions.
Yes, exactly. And again, that's why we do the Miami Hustle. We feel like it's important for people to tell their story to potentially inspire others that are trying to do the same or in the same field. So what would you say to the hustlers that are here in Miami that are pursuing their passion?
Listen, if your passion is present, then you're going to find your way. There's going to be obstacles, resources, people to believe in you. But the thing that you have to tell yourself, and this is what I told my 21-year-old self when I'm trying to crack in this very subjective business, there couldn't be a true decision about my skill. Am I good or bad? Should I be in the business or not? That's opinion. So I couldn't get lost in the 12 straight rejections I got. What I needed to do was give myself runway to get to the first yes. So if you give yourself enough time, like I had a plan. Like, I'm going to start looking for jobs my senior year in January. So as that last semester began, all of those resumes and resume tapes and cover letters all went out before I even went back to campus during the winter break. And then I had to sit and wait. And like I told you, those first 11 envelopes, that was hell.
Yeah.
Messes with your confidence. You question if you even spent the last 3.5 years studying the right thing. But you've got to get beyond the storm and realize that passes. Like, if you live in Miami, the storm is right there. I can see it, and I also see the back of it. So it's coming, and then it's gone. Mm-hmm. So let me just hunker down and get back to it. How do we apply that to our search and our passion? Is that, first of all, master your craft. Yes, you need to be competent at what you're doing. Just because you want to be a urban artist doesn't mean you can be. Mm-hmm. That may not be your gift. So identifying your gift oftentimes is the path is in front of you because that's your passion, or it's not. And so it's believing this is what I want to do, doing the work to learn it at the highest level, and then putting yourself in position time and time again to get what you want. It's almost been, 9 months since you all first reached out to do a pod together?
It's been a while,
Yeah, man. You all were great about it. Hey, what do you think? Hey, can we get it done? Hey, let's do it. And here we are.
But we also,
you probably want to do this, 10 pods ago.
You know what's funny is that when we hit you up, we put in the work, like you said.
Yeah.
And it does take time, because when we originally reached out to you, I mean, I've always been a fan of the Heat and of you and your work.
Yeah.
So I felt like reaching out to you was a half-court shot. If anything, a full-court shot, because we hadn't even let out an episode yet. We started recording episodes with our friends, and we felt that we can do this, and we were learning. And then we realized that we could do this, but we hadn't really had much motion or traction.
Mm-hmm.
So I threw the full-court shot, and then I saw that there was a potential. So I didn't bother you guys. You know, I understand that you guys are busy and you guys have your own lives. So I said to myself, let me put in the work and let's really build this. And when we're ready, when we're more ready and more, like the timing will get there. And then a couple months later, the season's about to start. Right. We're ready. We just started season 2. We've done our work and we got,
and here we are. Here we are.
Jason Jackson.
I love the concept. I really appreciate you having me. I hope you'll have me back. The fact that you're speaking to the language of 305.
We do have our own language.
You know what I mean? Like
100%.
That hustle can have a negative connotation most places. Like you're trying to get over on people. Mm-hmm. And here it's not. I mean, it can be. But for the most part, it's about trying to get what's yours in a very honest and hardworking way. And I love that. So thank you for letting me be a part of it.
Of course. I tell people all the time, the hustle it can be replaced for passion. Yeah. The Miami hustle is all about your passion. You need to follow what you love, because I feel that if more of us do more of what we love, we're going to be able to affect the world in a better place, you know.
Folks will be less grumpy.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah.
Just to go off of what you said, though, about how sometimes, you had those 11 rejections, even though you felt like you prepared so much, that could lead hustlers and people to maybe a depressing road where they feel like they're not good enough. And then mental health is a big thing with the Miami hustle, because in this city, especially nowadays, everything is more expensive and everyone's coming here. And the people that have been living here for years, it's now harder to live in their own city. So with the Miami hustle, with everyone following their passion and getting rejections left and right, how are you able to keep your mental health in place to keep moving forward and not let all those things discourage you to just give up?
I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and act like I know.
You're not the first one to say
how
that.
It was. It was my single objective. There was going to come a point.
So tunnel vision, no plan B.
Man, my plan B was to do weather. that was the plan B. I was like, I want to be a sports reporter, but if nobody hires me for sports, I will do the weather. I will be an entertaining, congenial, Jack's backyard barbecue on Friday, sending your postcards in. I'll do the weather from your backyard. Like I was ready to do whatever it took to get into television if the door was not through sports. But I was not doing anything other than being a broadcaster.
Yeah.
That was what I went through for 4 years, the 4 internships, all at the same station, but 4 different runs every summer. All of it was for that. So it wasn't, you can't be afraid of failure. You can't be afraid of it. And if you're afraid of it, then I will argue that you fooled yourself about your passion. And you shouldn't. You should be honest with yourself. And there are harsh realities. So don't think I'm not being myopic and insensitive. It's just that's what I talked about the runway. The amount of time you give yourself to succeed is important as much as the success itself. If I didn't give myself time for a 12th response, which ended up being the job at WSVN, where would I be? So that was March after sending out all the stuff in January. If I started in March and I was graduating in May, I don't have enough runway. If I was starting in May and thinking I was going to get a job before graduation, I graduated on the 7th of May. It would not have been wouldn't have been. It couldn't have happened. So some of it is our responsibility to launch the program for yourself of how I'm going to do this. I was methodical with it, right? I knew exactly. I want to give myself nearly 6 months, and I'm going to pull up and this is back in the day where these are trade magazines you had to get. Go to the library, be in the Dewey Decimal System. This is all before the internet, all before email. I mean, I remember the night, man, I sent out 48 tapes one night. And so that's 48 resumes, 48 cover letters. So I had to lick every one of those envelopes. And I remember at the end, my boss going, "You heard of a sponge?" My tongue, just no taste, raggedy. He's like, "You ain't ever heard of a sponge? Just sponge the top of the envelope."
Yeah,
I'm like, "Brother, I've been doing this." And so the show was over on a Sunday night at midnight. And I stayed overnight to dub all my tapes because it was real time. It was about 5 minutes of content per tape. And I sent out 48 tapes. So you tell me how long that dub took. And as each dub was done, I put it in and folded it, did the whole thing. So I was there until 6 a.m. on Monday. So the folks were coming in to start doing the morning shows for Monday. And I was still working on getting my tapes out because this was my last chance to get that stuff out.
I respect that so much because that physical work, that physical labor of you actually having to send those out is completely different than nowadays. It's so much easier to...
Will you lose a sense? Will you sacrifice taste?
Exactly.
Sight, hearing,
nowadays,
feeling,
you click and send. You're able to send resumes. It's a lot. Yeah, so there's
but you still got to find the gigs, and you still have to put yourself out there. So I don't... the labor's different. You will not lose one of your senses. Maybe feel if you're pointing and clicking over and over, edits and attachments. But I apologize. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I remember vividly that was also fuel. The work that I put in to just present my work to people was another reason to stay focused and locked in.
I feel like sacrifice is a lot too. You sacrifice a lot of your time, and that's something that, again, in the Miami hustle, you have to sacrifice a lot of your time because you need to have a job to pay the bills, of course, but after you get off of your job, you're either gonna, have fun and enjoy your life, or you're gonna keep hustling for what you believe in and what you want to achieve. So I think that sacrificing your time and energy on what you want is very important too.
Easiest word to say.
Yeah.
Hardest thing to do.
Exactly.
It really is. Sacrifice sounds right. It sounds noble. It sounds like it'll get you there. But will you do it?
Yeah.
And what will you do to sacrifice?
Exactly.
Right?
Like, how bad do you want it? What are you really willing to go through?
Will you put your tail between your legs? Mm-hmm. Will you ask for help? Will you eat Spam and crackers?
Peanut butter jelly sandwiches.
Right. Not going out and hanging out.
Exactly.
Right? Oftentimes our struggle is ourselves. Are we putting ourselves in position to be able to accomplish what we say we want? Or do we just want it to show up at our front door? Because it doesn't.
Yeah.
Amazon does, but jobs do not. That's it.
I love what you said that it's not, you can't just speak it and it's going to show up.
Part of it.
Because I'm a big believer in the law of attraction, but some people may think that the law of attraction doesn't necessarily work because you can't just speak things into existence. But what I will say is the law of attraction, the word action is actually in attraction. So what you need to understand is the only way you're going to manifest things into your life is if you're taking action. And I call it poking the universe. You need to constantly poke the universe so that it understands what you want and it can help you get it. Yeah. But if you just say all these beautiful things that you want in life or things that you want to accomplish, but you're not doing the action necessary, it's not going to happen.
You ain't wrong.
And I believe in overaction because if you're doing so much action, you could even realize that the path that you thought about taking wasn't even the right path.
So true.
And if you don't take action, you can sit and have these ideas of this path that you want to go on. And then, like you said, what if you would have waited till March and then started sending those things? Right. You just wasted all your time.
You're super wise for a young man.
Thank you. I appreciate
Brother,
that.
you got it. You understand it.
Credit to my parents. I come from hardworking parents. They came here when they were, my mom was like 19 or My dad was like 20, late teens, early 20s.
Yeah, man.
And they did what they had to do for me, my brother, and my sister. So I feel that it's my duty to help them as much as I possibly can and be a good person, be a good man, just to make them proud, really.
What a great motivation, man.
Yeah,
No doubt.
that's my why. So
Yeah, man. Listen, since the beginning of time, honor thy parents.
yes,
Not always easy. But I'm glad you have a way to it.
Oh, they were strict. They were strict
Yeah,
at
man.
times, yeah, but they had to be.
It's good for us.
We live in a crazy city. If they weren't as strict as they were, who knows where my life would have
Structure
taken me.
doesn't hurt anybody. We may not like it all, but if you are a person who is in a growth mindset, you want to be coached.
Mm-hmm.
Parenting is an offshoot of coaching, if not the other way around. And it's literally the hardest thing I've ever done. And it's the thing I take the most serious. I am fun and fun-loving. I love to have a good time. I do not play when it comes to fathering.
Mm-hmm.
My children are adults now, so I'm more like a life consultant.
That's
But the beautiful
awesome,
thing
yeah.
is, man, they have tools in their toolbox. People say that all the time. Do they know what the tools are for? I made sure my boys knew what the tools were for, when to use them, when not to. And they're still going to have to make their own mistakes. They're still going to have to figure things out on their own. We all need a little blood on our forehead to know full well that we should stop running into that wall.
It's the only way.
Exactly.
You live and learn.
I cannot do their jobs for them now. But they know that they're loved, and they know that they're cared for, and that there's a standard. And so many parents, unfortunately, feel like they don't want to be what their parents were. And in that is absence structure, standard, discipline. And those things shouldn't be negative. Not when you're trying to raise another human being who hopefully is going to be a contributive citizen in our society.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would love to have a family one day and like you said, be a great father and try to have a family where they're better than you. You always want to keep that going.
Yeah.
I just have, I wish I can talk to you all night, but I know you're a busy man.
I got to run over there.
Yeah.
Over there into the darkness.
To the city. So I just have two more questions for you. Speaking of our why, what would you say your why was when you were earlier, and then what do you say your why is now that just keeps you going every day?
So earlier it was definitely I'm a showman, and if you're a showman performer, like, you need an audience, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can do all the practice in the mirror and practice games into a tape recorder and all that. I yearned for the spotlight. Like, people always say, do you get tired of people asking for pictures or wanting to talk about basketball? I said, if I did, I should do something else.
Right.
So anyone who's a performer in any way, shape, or form tells you otherwise, they're lying to you. Mm-hmm. Now I think I'm just in search of excellence. Like, I just want to be great at it each time I sit down, which is impossible, and I know that. But it's my search, and I don't beat myself up a lot over errors. There's things that I can be diligent with: pronunciation, understanding storylines and trends. So I really just want to. I don't want to finish. I want to finish strong. I don't want to finish just kind of the string. And I probably want to do this for another 10 years or so, and then let the sea take me.
You got a lot of Udonis Haslem in you. You got that UD, that UD heart.
I've been around them a long time.
Another 10 years and finish strong. I love it.
Yeah, man. Snap the tape. I married a track and field athlete. My oldest son was a track and field athlete, and I would scream that to them all the time. Snap the tape. And it just means finish through. Don't just get to it and snap that thing, and you'll win more than you lose.
Mm-hmm. I've seen people, and I'm sure you've seen it too, where in track they think that they've won, and out of nowhere the guy behind
Hawk
them,
down.
they're the ones that really wanted it.
The Hawk.
Yeah.
Got you. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So speaking of the city where you're headed back to, I want to just ask you the last question that I like to ask everyone is, what does Miami mean to you?
Miami saved my career, man. It was going nowhere. I had made some decisions that young men make when they have too much money and too much of a platform. And coming back here allowed me to establish, number one, that I was fallible but capable of more, and that I was still a hard worker, that I was still talented, I just needed an opportunity. This place gave it to me through the Miami Heat. I'm forever in debt. And I think that's a lot of the reason why this is home now. Like, I love where I grew up. I love being from the middle. I love Midwestern values and that we're super friendly and you can count on us and all that good stuff. But this place let me hit reset and build and grow my family and establish a true belief that I'm capable. And that's awesome.
Yeah, it is. That's beautiful. Belief and faith at the end of the day is what really matters. It's going to keep your tunnel vision right.
You read about it.
So, yeah, man, I am honored. We are all honored to have you here in the Miami Hustle. To be honest, when I first started this, I only hoped for someone like you to be on the show. So I think this marks like a very special milestone for us in the Miami Hustle, and not only me and EJ, you know, but everyone that's been on the show and everyone that's going to be on the show. I think you're setting the tone for what the Miami Hustle will be. I'm looking forward to having you back. I want to, you know, talk to you as often as possible, of course, but maybe towards the middle or end of the season, we can just recap on where you think the Heat are at, where do you think they're headed, stuff like that, and then just talk about your career and your life outside of the Heat.
Just throw the Jack signal in the sky.
Yes.
And I'll come running.
Like the bat.
I'm a Marvel guy, but I like how Batman gets down.
Exactly.
So
We actually, that's funny you
there.
say that. We call this the Bat Cave.
I love it. You should.
It is.
You should. You might be in the sky, and people might see you, but they don't know where you are.
Hey,
I didn't know where I was coming when I was driving. I was like, oh, Lord, what am I doing?
You go under that tunnel, you go in the Bat Cave, and
here you are.
You see the beautiful
Voila,
city.
as they say. Thank you, brother.
Anytime.
Yeah, thank you.
And
Sorry,
as
EJ.
always,
I punched your microphone. My bad, dog.
it's always time to ball, yo.
Oh, come on, man. Love it.
Let's get our hustle up. Let's go.
That's
it.
awesome, dude.
Jason,
Appreciate you.
thank you so much. This is amazing.
Isn't that awesome?